bring us into the room and to be focused on to take away something from this presentation this evening. Please continue to bless us and watch over us as we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. We're going to sing number 526, Because He Lives. The next song we're going to sing is number 633, When We All Get to Heaven. Great. We're going to sing Happy for us today is mercy will behold. Soon the pearly gates will open. We shall tread the streets of gold. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we Okay, we're gonna have our opening song, number 528, A Shout in the Time of Storm. Be seated. So welcome to our AOA program today. We are thrilled to have you join us on this exciting journey of discovery and growth. The AOA program is designed to empower you with knowledge, skills, and experiences that will enrich your personal and professional life. We are here today to be supported every step of the way, ensuring that you have the resources and the guidance you need to succeed. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Today, the Community Services Department is sponsoring this program, and it's about fire safety. And to present, to present to us is our own brother Timothy Brathwaite. He is an active member of our church, and you'll find him singing with the sound leaders on Sabbath, leading lesson study and praying. But today, he comes not only as a man of God, but in a professional capacity as a fire officer. Timothy has been in this profession for almost a decade. He is driver and medic on shift as a certified EMT. That is Emergency Medical Technician. Today, he brings a wealth of knowledge to us on fire safety. I ask you that you give him your undivided attention as he presents to us. Come, Brother Timothy.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Sabbath, as it is still the Sabbath. Thanks for coming out, and it is good to be doing this presentation among my family, the family of Garden S.D.A Church. So this evening, we're going to be looking at fire safety, and I could go ahead and tell you guys what I had at the end. I was going to direct it more to the community, saying that we had invited some people from the community, but I still thankful that is my family that's here mostly from Gardens. Okay, so this evening's presentation is on fire safety, and the next slide. Some of the objectives we're going to go through this evening will be popping up soon, but you can pop up all of them. Yes, so we're going to be looking at what is fire safety, what is a fire, what are the size of the triangle of fire, and the size of the triangle of extinguishment. On the next slide. We're going to be looking at the different classes of fires, the types of extinguishing media, which is the material we use to out a fire, and what is a fire extinguisher. So I'm going to start by asking the question, what is a fire? In your own opinions, what is a fire? Can we have the roaming mic? Let me get one. Oh, you can use the blue one? Okay. In your opinions, what is a fire?
Hello, what is talking? A fire, in my understanding, is the combustion of flammable gases.
The combustion of flammable gases?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? The first elder.
So not only gases, but any flammable material, wood, plastic, all those different things are flammable.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? What is a fire? The evening at the bar.
A fire is an open flame out of control.
A fire is an open flame out of control. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so next slide. The definition that we have here for a fire is a rapid chemical reaction which gives off heat, light, and various products of combustion. So in firefighters' term, you would know that touch Abel there, Brother Abel. We just start, Brother Abel. Thank you. So Oh, you're thinking something? Thank you. So fire, the chemical reaction that we would call is known as oxidation, is when the oxygen along with fuel as well as heat or ignition temperature combines, causing a chemical reaction, and a solid quickly goes from solid to gas, and the term for that is sublimation. Most times we hear of evaporation, you know, about melting and freezing, but when something goes from solid straight to gas, we call it sublimation, and it goes on with another chemical process called pyrolysis. All of this here, so it's just to produce light, heat, and subparticles or particulates. That does, just go back, not yet. Thank you. Right, all of this happens, and because the solid is broken down into particulates, it burns so fast that the heat that rises causes the particulates to go up in the air, which is called hydrocarbons. We just say as smoke, which is a bunch of dust. So most times when we enter into a building that is on fire, if you get a flashlight and on it, it wouldn't really make sense because the light only goes from here to there. Because even though it is not a wall, all of the particles, all of the dust, all the hydrocarbons form a dust wall that the light can't penetrate through. So we just have to go in blind and feel our way through until we see a orange glowing light. It don't be as bright because of all the smoke. And when we find it, we just extinguish it. Okay? So fire, once again, is a rapid chemical reaction which gives off heat, light, and various products of combustion. There are 3 requirements for fire. The first one is fuel. The Bible says in Proverbs 26 and verse 20, where no wood is, the fire goeth out. There the fire goeth out. And when I can remember the first time I saw this text, I was like, wait a minute. So the Bible here teaching you how to fight fire. Because if it is that you have fuel and you remove the fuel, which is the wood, then the fire would stop. And I'm going to, further I'm going to tell you this is how certain different fires that we go to, we use a method to out fires that are very, very big in terms of grass fires or wildlife fires. Okay, the other component that makes up a fire is, coming up on the screen, heat or an ignition temperature. And the next thing after that is air or oxygen. Once these 3 things combine, making the chemical reaction, this is where fire is produced. Okay? This is where fire is produced. And most people know it as the triangle of fire or the fire tetrahedron. We can switch to the next slide, Dominic. Switch again. Right, so here we have it. So we have, on one side we have oxygen, the next side we have heat, and the other side at the bottom we have fuel. So once these 3 things are there, the fire will be alive. And if you look at it properly, you will see, if you think about us as human beings, we need heat to stay alive, we need oxygen, and we need fuel, which is food. And once we go through digestion, the process is called burning calories, which is the same thing that fire does, do burn. So if you want to kill or murder fire, you will learn to remove one of these things that are in the triangle. And once you remove the fuel, what happens to the fire? Next slide. That was fast. Go back and do it slow again. Right, go back. Good. We said what happened just now? So the fuel was removed and the fire died. Okay? We can see how this is important, because in order to learn about fire safety, it's best to learn about fire first. Then we can learn how to protect ourselves against it. So the way for fire to live, it needs fuel, it needs oxygen, and it needs heat. If you remove the fuel, which is the wood or papers or anything that could combust, the fire would die eventually. If you remove oxygen, the fire ends up dying also. If you remove the heat, the fire also dies. This is simple, nothing too hard. So once we understand the fire triangle, it gives us an understanding how to kill fire. which leads us to the triangle of extinguishment. The triangle of extinguishment. So before on one side we had oxygen, now we have smothering or starving, well, drowning, sorry. When you suffocate the fire dies because you are starving the fire from what? Oxygen that was on that side. Likewise, if you remove heat, to remove the heat from a fire, you just use cooling water, or something that we do when we light a match, we just what? We just blow it out. So quick cooling, so how it works is you got more wind than the flame. Sometimes when we can't reach a fire in the fire ground, when they got a big pasture burning, we just have leaf blowers. And we just go up to the fire with leaf blowers once is creeping out on grass, and we just on the leaf blower and we just blow out the fire. It's like a big mouth on a big match. You understand? We just rapidly cool it, and the fire dies out. The best thing to use, though, however, is water. So sometimes we have the water backpacks, that the farmers is used to pump it and just sprinkle it on, because once we have water, no matter how big the flame is, the fire is going to bend and obey. They had this thing, we went to a house fire, and a natural gas main had burst. So the gas was just flying out right next to the fire. So the fire caught onto the natural gas, and it was shooting out like a flamethrower. And this flame was so big. And this is the first year I was a fire officer, and I saw the guys got the hose from the truck and turned the stream into a fog stream. So they got a straight stream, like when you got the garden hose and you squeeze it all the way, it's come out real straight. Good. And the fog stream now is when it comes out like a cone, a mist of water coming out at high pressure. And these men walked straight up to the natural gas, and no matter how big the flame was, once we applied the water to it, it died and went straight down, and then the men locked it off, and that was it. And we went on to fight the fire. So once we have enough water, we're good to go. Once we starve the fire by removing wood, you just gotta wait a little while, and the fuel eventually burns out. And the next thing is smothering. So this is where sometimes you would see fire officers with some river tamarind bush or banana, anything we just use that could beat. We just beat the fire. So by doing that, just be smothering the fire and starving the flame from oxygen. So you just rapidly beat it out. And that's how we get rid of the fire as well. I had this one day, I was walking through a village to visit a friend, and this old lady was burning rubbish in her backyard. So when she was burning the rubbish, it was too much for her because she put the rubbish on dry grass. And I just walked in, and all I saw was the old lady going back and forth real fast, and the fire spreading faster than she could have moved. So the rubbish was out there, but the fire was out here. And when that happened, I said, look at this foolishness here. So we went and got the river tamarind, and me and the old lady was beating, and I was able to protect her house. And she just looked at me, wanting to know who it was and where it come from, that Jester was walking at the right time. So I let her know that I was a fire officer, and she was very, very, very glad. I let her know the next time you're doing rubbish, first of all, we shouldn't be lighting rubbish on an open flame without having a fire permit from the government. You could call fire service and apply for one. But the next time she does this, have a hose right next to her, wet all around the fire where she plans to burn, so that it doesn't spread. Okay? But it's safer to do it in a can. But avoid from doing it all together, because the neighbor gonna call you all when it smells small, and then we can come and go out with it. Okay? Anyway, moving on from here. Yes. Mm-hmm. Extinguishment, yes.
Thanks. So if we take that fire triangle and overlay it on this, you're saying to us that you cool the heat, you starve the fuel,
yes,
and you smother the oxygen.
Correct.
If you overlay that fire triangle on this.
Yes.
So are there things then, so you talk about the smothering, you use the rubber tamarind, the banana tree leaf, as a way to be able to smother the oxygen.
Yes.
So if you're starving the fuel, how do you starve the fuel? You talked about cooling, so I guess that's the water. So you use the water to be able to deal with the heat.
Right.
So how do we starve the fuel?
Okay, so if you realize that a fire is big, sometimes we go to a rubbish fire, and the rubbish is so piled up that what we do is start to pull away the wood from around the fire. So we will have some big rakes on the truck, and we would pull and separate the wood from it. And this is one way to separate. We already gonna let it burn. Sometimes we don't have, the hydrants in the area don't be working, especially in the far off countryside, St. Joseph, St. John, St. Lucie. Those places hardly have water. So what we do is we have to fight fire in a smart way. Apart from doing that, another way to get the fuel is to use up the fuel before the fire gets near to a house. So sometimes what we do is something called backlighting, where we would get, well, everybody's got matches, mostly fire officers. We've got matches, or we've got these big lighters that is look like a flamethrower. It's very sweet. And we just light a whole line of fire in front of the house, a little ways off. And as soon as one person lights it and it starts to burn, the other person has come and beat it out. So what that does, is use up the fuel that the fire coming would meet. And once it meet the burnt grass or the burnt bush already, it just dies out. Using the principle that the Bible has in Proverbs 26:20, where no wood is, the fire goeth out. So we're going to make sure we use up the wood before it get there. Sometimes, if it is that the fire is far out and it's burning slow and coming, but the wind is in our favor, blowing towards the fire that's coming to us, what we do is light it and let go and meet it. And when it meets it, everybody just get through faster. You know, the neighbors might just have to hold some smoke. But since the fire truck had burnt down in cane trash, we can't go off-road so much with the vehicles now, as not to allow that event to happen again. Okay? So sometimes if the courage is bothering you, which most people just complain about courage, and that's why there's like a lot of the cane, because the courages grow up in the cane. The best thing to do is try to call the minister, and they're beginning to put fines on people who has cane fields, and that they're supposed to maintain it from the courage, to pick it when it is green. Because when it's green, it doesn't flavor, it's when it's dry. Because sometimes the worst thing to do is light the fire too, because it's caused the seed and everything to burst, and it just spread, or it just go in the ground and still come up. So you don't really get rid of it, because every year it's come back the same place, even though you burn it. Okay? Moving on, that's the question about starvation. Okay, moving on now to the next slide. Having an understanding of fire, we're going to move into the realm of fire safety. Fire safety. And I have 4 pictures on the screen. Can someone tell me, or a number of people name whatever they see, what they know? Anybody at all? So we have a fire extinguisher there. Another person? Exit sign above the door, which is correct. And anybody else? Smoke detector and a fire alarm. So these things help contribute to detecting or stopping fire spread in the early. We can start with the fire alarm. So most commercial buildings should have fire alarms. We normally carry out a fire inspection, and if it is the building is a certain length in measurements, they have to have fire alarms different places, so that the people inside the building, the occupants, if they see a fire first, they could pull it, the nearest one close to them, run, and then everybody will be notified there's a fire in the building. And the best thing to do is escape at the nearest exit, which is important to have signs on the exits, like at the back door. So more than likely, if we are panicking and our brain just start to go here wire, everybody can see exit at the back and flood to the back. So we need to have more signs on the doors, because whenever somebody is panicking, it's easy to just tell them what to do and they will just do it. So if you see a sign, it will be better. And it's best to have a sign, because you wouldn't want to go through a door and you end up in the bathroom. And by the time you turn around, the fire spread and now you're locked in the bathroom. Good? The other thing is smoke detectors. These sell at Safety Supply, along with majority of these things here, and it is best to have smoke detectors in your house, because the faintest smoke that you may not detect, the smoke detector does, and keeps a lot of noise to notify you. And could anyone tell me what they think would be the best place to put a fire detector? In the kitchen. Where in the kitchen? Close to the stove. So right above the stove? In the center. Okay. What about in the corner of the wall? Okay, the other side, yes, the corner of the wall. So when smoke rises, it comes up like a mushroom. It doesn't come out like a square. So most times when the mushroom comes out, you know the corners is be space, and it comes like a ball, like a circle. If you was to put a circle in a corner, it's gonna have space directly in the corner, but the smoke gonna come back. So the best place to put a smoke detector is not in the corner or directly over the stove where it's gonna be going off all the time. It's best to put it 4 feet down from the ceiling, whereas the smoke will hit there and then come up, or 3 feet in from the edges of the wall. And that's how you would detect it better. Because if you put it in the wrong place, the smoke could be going on, but it's not. You gotta wait until the whole room get filled in order for the smoke detector to pick up on the carbon monoxide and then alert us. Okay? Most of the best places. Also, if you have one already, change the batteries. I know most of us like to hear the beeping. It keeps our company, but try to change the battery as it does not serve anything, any purpose. If it keeps beeping all the time, it's not gonna allow to detect you to let you know that something burning or smoking. Okay? So, fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers are very important, as when the fire is now starting, you could kill it and nip it in the bud so that it doesn't spread any further. And it's always good to have a fire extinguisher on the wall where you can see it, where it's notified with a sign saying fire extinguisher. The other day last week, we had a fire up St. John Oak Gall Hill. And the caller called not to tell us that there is a house fire, but that there was, and we still went to check it out. What had happened was the fan started to smoke, and she had the curtains, long flowing curtains, near the fan. So when it started to smoke and give off heat, the curtain start to catch fire and they start to burn. But luckily they knew where the fire extinguisher was, and they had the correct fire extinguisher, and she was able to mitigate the situation before it spread. So instead of having a house that flat, all she had was one curtain that was black. So you never know, you may not, for all these years you may be getting away by not having an extinguisher, but it's best to have an extinguisher in the house. Yes, Brother Errol. Yes, I'll be showing us how to use the fire extinguisher and teaching us about fire extinguisher as we go on. But I was just commenting on the pictures we have here. Okay. Next slide. All right. So the question is asked, what is fire safety? What is fire safety in our own words? Go back, Brother Dominic, please, so nobody wants to see the answer. Yeah, good. So somebody using different words from what we just saw, what is fire safety? Brother Taiwan said prevention. Correct. Anybody else? Is it fire safety? Is it really prevention? The question is asked. Because it's being safe from a fire, but it may have started already. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A pound of prevention is always better. Sorry, an ounce of prevention is always better than a pound of cure. That's good. Right.
The curtain should never be over the stove.
Correct.
Correct. So the prevention would be not to have the curtain over the stove. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. Mm-hmm. So that is a preventive measure to make sure that I don't do things or have things around the stove that can cause issues. Another thing, women love a lot of towels to dry their hand. That might be something that right beside the stove where you have an open flame.
Right.
Oh, I gotta keep my hands clean. That don't make any sense. You understand? Put it by the sink where you wash your hands.
Right.
And put the rack right by the sink. So you gotta dry your hand out there, come out there, by the stove before any issues.
Correct.
Anything at all that can cause or catch a fire around the stove, that would be a means of prevention.
Okay. I agree with that as well, because sometimes we just hang the curtains right on the handle of the oven below the stove. And whenever you warm it up, not the curtain, the kitchen towel. I was just checking to see if you all were paying attention. Right, so sometimes we hang the kitchen towels on the stove or the mittens and stuff, and then when it is in contact with the glass, what happens is you have heat, you have fuel, which is the kitchen mitten, and then you have oxygen, which is in the air. And then if it's hot enough or it reach ignition temperature, and different materials have different, cotton has a higher heat threshold, whereas polyester tends to cake up very, very easy once the heat touches it and catch a fire. So if we hang these things on the oven, like Brother Tyrone is saying, it tends to start a fire easier than most. Okay, guys? All right. All right, what's other aspects of fire safety? Anybody else? It might come in.
Having equipment or supplies that if a fire does happen, that you're able to control it
Okay.
in the shortest possible time.
Okay, having response equipment in place, like for example, what we had here was the extinguisher. And somebody else behind there? Okay, so you can move on to the slide. Oh, better turn again, Kushu.
Yeah, training, because for example, what you're doing here now
Right.
will help us to know what to do in the event that we have anything happening.
Okay, so having knowledge so you can know what to do in the event of a fire. This is something common that most people know already. If we have a deep fire on the stove, what would you add to out it? Water. Right? If you have an oil fire, deep frying. If you have an oil fire, you would add water to out it, right? Because you're cooling it, right? No, okay, I'm just playing the thing. Just making sure everybody knows that. Because if you was to add water, will anybody know the reason why you don't add water? No. Right, anybody knows the scientific reason why not to add water? The chemical reaction.
I think that the heat from the oil will extract the oxygen from the water and make it worse.
So he says the heat from the oil would extract the oxygen from the water and make it worse. Let's go to Sister Yvonne. She was saying something just now. You sure? Okay. Oh, the back there. Yes.
Do not let curtains cover switches and their light outlets.
Okay. He said he was saying don't let
Plugs.
curtains cover the plugs or the light outlets, which is true, because it could spark, catch a fire, and then not the roof catch and everything. So what happens is with specific gravity, they have oil, which is lighter than water as it relates to the gravity, and oil floats on top of water. When the oil is on fire and you put water, what happens is oil, when it tends to break up and get into more oil bubbles, when the water hits there, it floats on top of the water goes down, and it pushes the water up. Sorry, it pushes the oil that is on fire up in the air. So it always floats on top. That's why whenever we have oil fires that we go to, or any flammable liquids, we would use foam, because foam is lighter than oil, and it goes on top of the oil, smothering it, which is correct. So when you smother it, which is taking away oxygen, what happens? The fire, it dies. So understanding how fire stays alive, we can understand how to kill it. And that is why we are called firefighters, because we have to be fighting with the fire so it could die. Okay? So moving on now, other things to help prevent fires in the kitchen. You know, whenever sometimes we cooking on the Sundays is one do a lot of things, because that's when the whole houses get turned up to do the housework. So you'll find that you'll be cooking on the stove, and when you're cooking on the stove, the clothes washing, and when you clothes washing, you then got the tub seasoned with the Ajax and the little Clorox and little different chemicals that would knock you out. You understand what I mean? And then after that, there now you go and you check the stove and you come back, and that whole thing is burned real fast. So it is best to prevent a fire to always be in the kitchen if you're cooking in the kitchen, so you could always see what's going on. Another thing to do is use clothes that are not as baggy, so that if it is you go near the fire, it ain't blow inside the flame. 1. 2, another thing to do is turn the handle of the pots and the pans and the what's not in the inside so that your clothes or what's not don't hook up and then you end up getting burned. Or the oil goes in the fire, which is cause combustion. Making sure the stove is level as well with the plates that goes over the burners. Because sometimes you will put it on and you will find that the oil or the liquid lean on the side. And that there does cause problems as well. Also, you know, sometimes, especially the madam, she likes to heat the pot before she put in the oil. Sometimes if you heat the pan, right, yes, we're hearing that you have to, but if you heat it too hot, and then put in the oil and you realize the oil is turning smoking white, lower it down, because that's when the oil could catch a fire. And it happens when you least expect it. Anytime you cooking and you see the oil starting to give off a white smoke, the next step is that it's catching fire. And that's how some of the chefs like to cook. When they put in the oil, they see it start to smoke white, and then just get a little flick. And when they give it that flick, the whole pot is on fire. And then they start to look pretty, adding any different stuff and stuff like that there. So, but in the event that you are cooking and you realize that your pan or a pot catch a fire, instead of using water to mitigate the situation, what is best to do, because you know that water could cause things to be worse, what is best to do is to get the lid and approach the fire not above it, but get low and use the pan to help push off the heat from your hand, yeah? And then simply cover it and go along, call the fire service. And what that would do is what? Since we learned about fire science and we know what causes fire to be lit, what will that do? That will deprive it of oxygen and eventually it will go out. Do not remove the lid until 5 minutes or more. Okay? 5 minutes, please.
I don't have no foam. I don't have no foam, so we can chop on it.
Okay, good. So if you are in the kitchen and you're washing the wares and something, just water just happened to splash inside of the oil and you do not have no foam, you could use the same pan lid and cover it. Or if you don't have a pan lid, I'm going through the things you should have first, and then I'm going to use the alternative. So this is a fire blanket. These normally are hanged up inside of the kitchen. You can purchase this from Safety Supply. You could use the fire blanket that has a fire retardant material and cover it the same way. Obviously, imagine this is a fire blanket in my shirt. Please. Yes. After you turn off the stove, so we're gonna thank you. We're gonna kill the flame from the stove first, and then you're gonna cover it. Okay, guys? Another thing you could use is baking soda. If you have baking soda in your kitchen, you can use a lot of baking soda and just don't look to dose it completely with the baking soda, and that is help smother the flame as well. I had a time that I went to a restaurant down Spike Stone, right before St. Peter's Bay, a green restaurant. On the right-hand side, before it opened, they were testing the kitchen equipment. And when they were testing the kitchen equipment, the deep fat fryer that had the oil with its fuzzy chips caught a fire. And when we got there, we saw the entire fire blanket inside the fire. The person taking and pelted at the fire. So obviously, with the lack of understanding and knowledge of how to start a fire, they just took it and pelted like as though it was some sort of miraculous thing to diffuse. It wasn't open or anything. They just threw it in. They just threw it inside the pan. Yeah, you could wash off. It has fire retardant material. If the fire hot enough though, it will nothing in fireproof. It just retards the fire to an extent. Could withstand a lot of heat. No. No, yeah, I will have to open, guards won't there. Okay? Right, but it's fine. If you want to say open, it's best to open it, not now, but go on YouTube and look at it open. It's pulled to release, but it's hard to fold back up. Yes, it will take time I have to do it, but you could check on YouTube and see what it looks like. Just like a blanket, just like make sure, just imagine that you just get a blanket, fire retardant, and you cover it. So when we got there though, in the panic of the situation, the old heads from the fire service that were there were some people that, they're not in the fire service any longer, that went and was using water on the fire. And it was like, because coming off of training school and now come off of recruiting too, I said, guys, this is a oil fire, we're supposed to use foam. So let me switch the truck to foam, and let me get foam on top of the fire. Because most of the times people just don't want to use the foam because it's very limited. So I said, forget about that, use the foam, and the fire was out in quick time. So that's why what we're going to go on to learn is the classes of fire, which will give us a knowledge on what to use at the particular fire. So whereas you will get somebody, and if you go on videos on YouTube that have somebody pouring a little bit of water inside the oil fire, you will see how big the fire is multiplying and spread. It's really, 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 really something to see. Okay, so restricting fire, same page. Correct. Restricting fire spread in buildings and property. So also, most of the times, when we are inside the fire, it's one comment on the curtains. You see the long curtains, it's look real nice and flowing, but it's very dangerous, like what the brother was saying, over sockets, over plugs, because these things generate a heat. We have a thermal imaging camera in the fire service. Every truck has one. And sometimes when you're playing with it and you look at a socket, you can see the socket is white because that whole heat does present itself in the camera. And it does be white, and you can see that a socket always has energy right there. If you plug in something, like a charger for your cell phone, and you leave it plugged in, and you just plug out the phone, leave it plugged in, you see it holding heat as well. So plug out the appliances that you're not using from the walls, down to the microwave and the toasters. Because if it was that a power surge should happen from the, if a power surge should happen, right, these things will start to smoke and burn first. And this had happened to me when I had joined the fire service in the first year. How's the answer? Yes.
Regular plugs are I was trying to remember the name, those blue ones. Those blue plugs that are supposed to be, oh my gosh.
No, I mean a normal wall plug.
They're wall plugs too, but right. They're supposed to, what's it called? Yes, those GFI.
You mean the ones that is press the button to reset?
No.
Okay.
No. The GFI plugs that are, if they get a surge, they're supposed to shut down all of the current behind it.
Oh,
those
kind of the built-in surge protector plugs.
Kind of like that.
Okay.
Those ones too would also have the problem?
Not necessarily, but it's always safe to unplug it because sometimes they fail.
Okay.
Sometimes they fail. And it's always best to have our own surge, get a surge protector also onto the house, plugging, so that it can help protect the appliances, not to overload it, because sometimes we get power plates, right? And the power strips, we just confuse for a power strip for a surge protector. But make sure it has surge protector and it has the letters U and L on it, which represents underwriters laboratories, to show that it was tested before it was sold. So what these surge protectors do is when a surge comes from the power lines to your house, that would take the brunt of the force and shut off everything going to the appliances. And there was a night I was at home, we were sleeping, the dogs was barking, I was still sleeping. The chickens, the noise, the road, everything, keeping noise, I still sleeping. But from the time the fan, Bajans, from the time the fan off, is wake up. From the time the fan off, we woke up. And they started to smell smoke. And then when the whole house to smell like smoke and plastic, like electric burn, like electrical fire. And I went straight to the breaker and I off everything one time. I ain't even on the light, I ain't check nothing, just off the breaker. And then I called the fire service and asked for the number for the light and power guys that is work 24 hours. So they came to my house an hour or so after, and they found the that from the power line to the house, the line had rusted and there was a break that was tapping. So because the circuit wasn't complete, it was just tapping and the surge was coming strong one time and it fried all the appliances that wasn't connected to a surge protector. And this is information that is necessary and needed, because sometimes if this happens to you, you can call the light and power and just ask for a paper to fill out where you would put your appliances on, the ones that was damaged, and they may take liability because they actually came and fixed back the stove and fixed back certain things that could be fixed back. And if it couldn't be fixed back, once you prove that you bought it, they would reimburse you the money. So most people don't know this. And the reason why most people don't know this because it's almost as if the blame is at them. Right? Most of the house fires we have are because of the fans that people, most of the house fires are because of fans, always starting with a fan. The fan start fire, the fan catch fire. Connect the fans to surge protectors. You don't have to buy all one time if you can't afford it. Buy one once a month. And at the end of the year, you got 12, you just plug everything to surge protectors. And when you have the power strips to put in more plugs, only put in 3. Don't put in more than that because you will overload it because it's still going to one plug. Right? And that causes a lot of heat and could cause a fire. Another thing that we have are extension cords that we just plug into other extension cords, and this is a fire hazard also. And if you have a fire extension cord, for those who do trade work, fold it up properly and don't ball it up. Because when you ball it up, the cords in the inside of the insulated wire, which should be orange or so, tends to tangle up. And when it tangles up, you just don't see it, but it's got a break in the inside, and then that's get real, real hot. And it start to spark or catch a fire. If you see frayed lines, we can see pictures later. If you see frayed lines, change the extension cord. Even though some people will say, man, that's still good, get the electric tape and tape it up to protect, because it's catching fire. I had one time I was doing a job in a client's house, and when I accidentally stepped on the cord, thankfully, the cord was hot. The extension cord was steaming hot and start to melt inside my client house. And all it's in my head is, we're supposed to burn my house now? So I went, I unplugged it, and I had to borrow another extension cord. But what I believe happened was underneath the orange cord that looked good, because it wasn't repackaged properly every time you go to different jobs, lines, wires cross, and it start to heat. The whole thing to burn. So we have to make sure we are tidy with putting away appliances and not balling up the cord, but doing it properly. Okay? That is one of them. The next thing is the means of escape from built. Yes, that's first order.
Power strips. I've seen people plug one into the wall and then plug one into another one and run about 3 or 4 in series.
I had mentioned that no, it's not safe to do that.
That's not safe, right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so the means of escape. Whenever we do inspections for nursery homes, or whether it's children or adults, we make sure that the exits are not packed with junk. You know, sometimes they got some clothes that you want to give to the Salvation Army. You're going to big black garbage bag, and you will put it by the side door or a door that nobody don't really use. Well, those doors come in very handy in the event of a fire. Another thing too is burglar bars. You see burglar bars that just keep out the thieves? It also keep you inside the house. So if you're going to have a burglar bar, make sure that the burglar bar swings on a hinge, and that you have the key that you can see near, and make sure that that key is the only key on the chain next to the window. Because if you got a fire and you're trying to get through the window, you're searching for the key, that's problems. A fire does double in size every 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds. And let's know with the different building materials that they have. It's very, very easy and flammable, these new building materials, because Purple Heart ain't gonna light as fast as the other wood that they have. Okay? Most of the individuals, most of the victims of house fires that die, most of them die by the windows, trying to get out, but the burglar bar there. So they're going to the window to get a little air, but the smoke so thick that it asphyxiate, and the smoke getting the lungs, and when smoke is getting your lungs, breathing in smoke, it stick onto the alveoli, which is the little air, oxygen sacs in your lungs, and then it closes off. You'll be able to get oxygen. So you'll be breathing and still short of breath, and that's how people just suffocate and die from smoke inhalation. Because remember, this whole box burn. Then what they want to take this box and push it in the lungs. But from the time it starts to burn and sublimation takes place from oxidation, what that does, you inhale that, and this basically go in your lungs as a gas and stick onto all of the oxygen receptors inside of there, and that's how you just suffocate and die. But most of them do it by the burglar bars. And there was a fire. I didn't go to it, thankfully. One of my friends, he was talking about it, that recruited me. And he said he could have stayed outside. They had the water and everything put in the house, but they could hear the person inside screaming for their life. So if you have burglar bars already, you don't necessarily have to change it entirely. What you have to do is just get one side, put hinges on, and then you could get somebody to put the latch going across, the tongue that you just put across and turn down, put it on the outside of the wall, and that's the easiest way to do it. And if you plan to get burglar bars, let the Iron Man go through the stress of putting hinges and so it could swing, because they don't like to do that because it'll be more work. But let them do more work, because it could be your life in the balance. And that also goes for the burglar bar doors. The grill doors on the doors in front of your house. Because a lot of people, when they go by your house to do jobs, they know I look for the key. They get by your house at 10 o'clock, and by 10:05, unlocking it. And you can hear ching. No, we don't want that.
Can I ask a question about the fire service?
Yes, please.
Do you guys carry bolt cutters, those long
Yes,
things?
we carry bolt cutters. Or sometimes we have to use the jaws of life, because some of the boats that people have on their house, I don't know if they're trying to keep out King Kong or Godzilla, but the boats will be so thick and hard than steel. Most of the times, if a thief come and see that they got burglar bars, it's move. Nobody got time to try to pick a big lot like that. And there was a time that, and this is just a by the way, check on elderly people in your life. Check on them every day. Because there was a time we had to go with bolt cutters for an old lady that had fell between the bathtub and the toilet. And she was there for 5 days, between the bathtub and the toilet. 5 days. When we used the bolt cutter and got inside the house, the porridge that she had on the stove had maggots in it and everything, the flies, everything that, you could tell that she was there. Then the phone calls on her phone were from 5 days ago, missed calls from 5 days ago. That's how we narrow it down to 5 days. So make sure that you're checking on elderly people or handicapped people or whatever in your sphere, in your vicinity, in the neighborhood, to make sure that they're okay. Because some people go missing, a day or two will pass, you don't call the person and they need your help. And that has happened multiple times. I can remember when Sister Hunt from our church, one time we went to shout her, and I was walking up the hill. It was years ago, and she was just in the house by herself, and the door was locked, and she couldn't sit down because she was in pain with her head, and she just there standing up. And I let on the door and called some elders from this church, and she was able to, from that, go to stay with her family in the garden or what's not. So you gotta make sure we check on our elderly, on those that are in need and got any special needs or handicap. Okay, guys? It's necessary. We gotta be our brother's keeper. And you see these things regular. That's not the first lady that we saw on the ground. for 5 days, and the body ain't called, and the wet the servant. That is painful to know. Okay? All right. So all the old furniture that you have inside the house, all the old boxes, all the old stuff that you're deciding to throw away, keep it someplace that will annoy you, so it could get you to actually throw it out instead of keeping it in front of exits. Because in the event that something happens, you want to make sure you can run through the door hard. Okay? Another thing also is, could go to the next slide, please. Right. In the event of any emergency, we already went through this already. We're going to skip through some of it. The nearest exit would be doors. Even inside the house, you could print. It ain't gonna be nothing fancy. Print a piece of paper and put exit on it, on the doors, from the inside. Because whenever, like I said before, whenever you're panicking, you just tend to do the first thing that you see. And if the first thing that you see, you don't know what to do. If you see exit, you can say, oh, you can catch yourself and go through the exit fast. It has happened. The alternative exit we spoke about, which would be windows, and identifying the fire hazards and eliminating, reducing them. Okay, good. So if you are storing chemicals, do not store chemicals, strong, flammable chemicals in the kitchen, underneath the sink. That's where fire does normally be. Try to store them outside in a little something, right? Well ventilated. I know it sounds strange, but in the event of a fire, these things is accelerated. And the example we have is the fire that was next to Les Savon. The thing it started burning was the mechanic shop, and right next to that was a paint shop. And you know paint is flammable. And that fire was heated. There was an explosion and all sorts of things. That fire was so heated that you had to stand off for it. And it still could have feel the heat. Some of the fire officers' helmet, when it was closed, started to warp. How hot it was. So you want to keep chemicals that are flammable in a well-ventilated area, because sometimes the chemicals is off gas, and then when you go near it with a flame, or open flame, it catch. Years ago, that happened at a government facility where they had an explosion near the airport, and the container was full of chemicals and fireworks, and when all of the combinations of gases finally made the correct chemical reaction, there was an explosion that shook all the fire servicemen at the airport fire station, shook the whole station. And then we had to respond to it. So that's why it's not good to store flammable things inside of a closed area. Okay, you can switch to the next slide. All right, so exit card, yes. Because the last thing I want to talk about here would be EDIF, which is exit drill in the home. So once a month, or how much ever you want, sit down with your family and walk through a plan that you're going to take in the event of a fire. EDIF. EDITH. Exit drill in the community? In the church. Oh. Okay. Right. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is put a plan in order for Garden Church so that we could know in the event of a fire where we are going to flee and where we're going to muster and where we're going to gather and give a count. You were saying something for us, Ada?
Yeah, it's important to know. That's very important, because I went to a conference earlier this year talking about safety in our churches. And that's one of the things we have to do. I've been trying to get the people that do the maintenance to put back up our signs. There's a sign right here already, just sitting on the ledge that says exit. There's one on the back I told them I need one on this door and that door. So all 3 doors or 4 doors will be marked as exits. Also, we're trying to get a sign that says muster here or meeting point or something like that, so we know everybody goes to that point. If there's a problem in the sanctuary and we have to run, we know everybody is out.
Okay.
So we're working on that. We'll have that in place very, very soon.
Okay. So, right. So we're going to meet with the family members and we're going to say, okay, so who the children like the most is who going to lead the children outside the house. Or if it is, let me say they got a fire in the passage and you in Winnipeg, is work easier that way with the children following a parent that are more confident in here. It ain't got nothing to do with it, let you more or not, but if it is that you're in the fire and the children like Marcel, follow Marcel, go along. If they like me, follow me and let me come along and lead them out. Sure. So what I'm saying is, in the event of a fire, explain to the household, if you're in this bedroom, go through the window. How to open the window in the event that something happens. If it's in the kitchen, everybody will come through the corridor and go through the back door, because most of the time, just go past the kitchen to get to the front door. So go to the nearest exit, whatever plan you have, and ever so often shout out fire, fire. And just do that drill so they can know and see how the children or how you yourself would react in the event of a fire. And this would cause things to go smoother because you are practicing it. Okay, we're just putting things in place to prevent it. However, most times we go to house fires that start from the kitchen. Most people just have the pot on fire burning, the whole place smoke. When a pot burning, it smokes so black, you would think the house is burning. And one time we went to this fire, this gentleman and the neighbors ran the whole city house on fire. All that happened is the person was cooking, ran to bed because it was working along with cooking, and dropped asleep. And the contents of the pot burned black, everything, just smoking, smothering, so black. It wasn't the oil, he could have thrown water in that, but anyway, we're practicing that. It wasn't the oil, it was real black, and all the fire officers did was went, took it, and bring it outside. And that was it, open up the house and ventilate it. So it's very important to make sure you're watching the stove when you're cooking, or every time you do something, it can burn. You gotta watch the stove like plantain. You know when you're frying plantain, what's happening? You need to tools it black. I don't, plantain is something else. You gotta make sure you're watching that there so good. Okay, moving on to the next slide, we're gonna have some pictures here. All right, so this is one of the annoying things that a lot of people hate to hear. When you have, most of the times, right, we just have the stove on, and right next to the stove is be the gas bottle. Right next to the stove is be the gas bottle. Not knowing that the gas bottle is leaked, that way most times people just test them, put a little water on it to see if it's bubbling up, but it can leak after you already test it from pushing in and on it. Some people just off the gas bottle whenever they leave the house and on it back, and that could cause it to leak slowly. The best place to store a gas bottle, and I have seen this with my best friend, I have seen this with my best friend. He has his gas bottle outside the house and a hose running through with a drill hole. You could get the hose long, it ain't gonna be a short hose. The gas station is actually cut the hose as long as you want it. Drill a hole, put the hose through, and let it go to the stove. Most times with the big, tall gas bottles, we just don't have a choice but to do this. So they got some people that got these big, long gas bottles, put it outside and it's run through the house. So if you could do it for those big ones, it's best to do it for the small ones, because right there you have more ventilation, and you wouldn't have an issue with that. So the other thing was one that was last month, and I was eating and I smelled so much gas. And what had happened was, whether the children or somebody passed the stove, it brushed the knob, and the gas starts to leak. Thankfully, a chemical is added to gas bottles to give it a smell, because natural gas don't have no smell. So thankfully, it was given a smell, and I just went, in panic, I just went off the knob and opened the windows. Let's try to act calm, because when you act calm, anybody can on the lights in here, look a bit dark. Right, when you are calm and not panic, you just tend to think before you do things, rather than just panicking and you going and you just, you understand what I mean? Just think before you do things. And the gas is also toxic, so if it is that you find that you can't shut it off properly, make sure, if it is that you find, right, if it is that you find that you can't find where the source of the gas is coming from, go out of the house. Go out of the house, yeah, thanks. Go out of the house. Because my best friend was telling me that a day he got home and his grandmother was in the bed. She was sleeping, and the house was full of gas. The gas was escaping from the gas bottle so fast that the bottle started to sweat and get cold. So whenever you have a can, or you tend to ever spray a bottle or bag on so long that they sort of get cold in your hand, any pressurized liquid inside of a can, once you spray it and the gas comes out fast, it gets cold in your hand. And the gas bottle started to sweat and get cold, and his grandmother was foaming at the mouth. He and his wife had to lift her outside the house because the gas is toxic as well. So if that happens, do not on the light and you can't find where to shut it off. Get everybody out of the house. Do not on the light. Do not make a call. Do not unplug anything. Do not plug in anything. Do not slam the door, because all of these things, all it needs is a spark. A spark. You got gas. In Barbados recently, that had happened. I don't know if you all saw the pictures, but you actually saw where the house lit up and the roof got lit off. There was an explosion. 3 people was injured, and 2 of them died after they getting the hospital from the burns. What had happened is alleged that the person smelled the gas and went to call the fire service inside the house with his cell phone. Anybody realize that when you use the cell phone for long, it's get real hot? If you charging the cell phone, it's get real hot. All that's radiation, and based on the fuel that is present, whether the ignition temperature is lower or higher, you could get combustion, and then boom. So sometimes you just tell yourself when you go in the gas station, the sign that says turn off your cell phone is a joke, but it's best to be safe than sorry. It's best to be safe than sorry. That's why the gas stations have the roof so high, I don't have no size, so that the air can always pass through easily. That's what the term. In the event that a fire is going on in your house and you wake up and you realize it got smoke, so the first thing we're going to try to use is the nearest exit. If you cannot use the nearest exit and you are somewhat near the other exit, stay low, because heat does rise. Heat rises, the smoke does rise, it hits the roof and then it comes down. Stay very low and crawl to the nearest exit. If it is that you realize that can't happen and you are near a room, and most of the times these things don't be present, because we would just use sometimes is a towel or a cloth, wet it and push it by the door to stop the smoke from coming in, right? That's providing the door is also a proper wood door, that not in this, because if it catch fire, you're gone, right? So the best thing to do is get low and try to get outside, or try to go through the window, put things in place. So when that happens, you're in a room with a window that could open burglar bars or don't have burglar bars.
The oxygen inside the lungs.
Yes.
They pull it. So I'm asking, other than getting low, is there anything that I could do at all to save myself or to prolong the time period in order for somebody to come and get to me?
Right. So if it is that you wet a towel as well and cover your head, that could give you some sort of a little more time. But apart from that, get the hose, get your neighbors, get this might sound strange, but get hoses that could reach around your house. If you got a pipe at the front and you could get one at the back, do that, because most of the house fires that we go to, and this is not in the notes, or this is not in the teaching when we recruit at the academy, but this is what has happened to stop house fires. Most of the house fires that we go to, that the house is not burned down flat, or from neighbors or the person at the house that has a long hose with a jet. You know the jet nozzles that you just squeeze and spray out? Them did make a big difference here. That does make a big difference. If it is too big and it is too gone, don't pretend to use it for you to that. Don't have the correct PPE, which is personal protective equipment. The bunker suit, the bunker top, the helmet and stuff. But even with that equipment, we still feel heat. Even with that equipment, when they have on, and I'm instead of a house fire, right? And the roof burning, and the windows and everything, and the heat coming down. Because we had to go inside, when we was training, we had to go inside a container, for the front container, deliberately put pallets inside the back of the container and light it on fire. And when we lit it on fire, we were told to lie down on our backs and look up in the ceiling. And we saw the heat went to the roof and start to do like water. You know how when you look at the heat on the road, it's like it's giving you a mirage, right? It look wavy. We saw the heat with the superheated gases coming down, and the thing looked like water. Then we ears start to burn. Everything start to burn. Face and everything starts sweating. You can feel the sweat coming down your face. When you're sweating on your face, you want to move it, but you can't move it because you want this mask. You got to keep it there. So you got to endure the itching, you got to endure the heat, you got to endure the irritation. And you see these superheated glasses, and then somebody said, yeah, open the door. So when they open the container door, all the heat just went straight up in the air, because you know heat does rise because it's the specific density or gravity does be lighter than air. So it went straight to the up in the air, and then it did it again. No, I didn't hate that. Oh, my heart. Because anyway, so that's why we just make sure that when we go to houses, well, we have a team inside. There's somebody outside breaking the windows to make sure that the superheated gases go out, so the men inside are good. Yeah? Right. So, yes, brother.
My question is, I want to understand what happened in Nav burning house in Barbados.
The reason for a lot of burning houses in Barbados is because most people do not have the correct fire safety knowledge and equipment to quickly mitigate the situation. So if it is just like how I was saying earlier, a person's house caught a fire with the fan and the curtain blowing on the fan. And because the person had a fire extinguisher where they knew where it was, easily to access, they were able to stop that whole house from burning down. Another person, house burned down, the curtain catch it, and everything burned down. You see the difference the person had in place? One person had something in place, the other person didn't have nothing in place. Another person was cooking on a stove, and this person received some burns in their face. They was able to save the house, but they received burns in their face because when it was cooking, they was doing something else. And when they went in the kitchen, they see bare smoke. If they had a smoke detector, they could have gotten it before the whole of the front house was burnt or covered in black, thick smoke. And the person was just saying they don't want the house burned down. I went and inhaled so much black smoke, and they was sick for 2 weeks. Right? So implement the things that we learn, and you will see that it will tend to prevent. My prevention is far better than cure. Yes, Brother Smith. Right. So somebody that was here, Brother Taiwan, can you tell him what we had learned earlier? No problem. I will go over it, so but I can let Brother turn see if it's worth.
Before we get to that,
yes,
the gas bottle for there is in the cupboard, so we need to do something about that, Elder. We need to apply for natural gas, so we don't got that in there anymore. I don't know. I tell you first, Elder, so that you know. So in terms of the smoke alarm,
detector.
The smoke detector.
Yes,
sorry.
The
right terminology.
Yes.
We were educated on how smoke travels. Smoke doesn't. No, wait. Correct. It doesn't go straight up in the air. It bevels. That's the right word?
Mushrooms,
like a plant. So it comes and curves all the time. And because it is something that's hot, it rises and then it mushrooms and then it comes back down. Mm-hmm. So he said it would tend to go up and then start to go to the corners and then come back down all the time like that. So placing it in the corners, it'd be likely that it would detect the smoke and then send off the alarm.
No. Do not place
it. Sorry. 3 inches down from the roof. 3 feet.
Yes.
And 3 feet in from the wall, right?
3 feet in from the roof,
yes,
in the middle,
yes. Yes, sorry about that.
Right, so this is the roof here. And right here, so now we make a perfect square, which is a 90-degree angle. And if it is that you have a circle, you will have a speed. Oh, yes, look. You see how this is? Oh, it doubles like this? Right, so the smoke would rise and it would mushroom like this. So if you put it in the corner, it wouldn't detect the smoke until it fills the whole room, and then it would detect the smoke last. So if you put it 2 feet or 3 feet coming across from the corner, you will tend to detect the smoke fast. Or, you see where the fan is? Right. That's like 3 or so feet down from the roof. That would detect the smoke as well, because it's going to push and bounce off. Okay. So next picture, yes, please. We talk about the yes, please, go through. No problem. Right. So you're in an electric bus. You're in an electric bus, and you have an accident. Kick out the window. The door should deploy, open automatically in terms of an accident, but there are some windows that you just have to take off the red hammer and hit it, and then go outside. We, as fire officers, not that we are afraid, but these new electric vehicles are something serious, because we already had electric car vehicles, and what they told us to do is to get a big, gigantic, this is like a 3x3 fire blanket that have 4x6s. In terms of feet, but the fire blanket we have is one that is like from 2 meters by the air bow, and we just hold it and pull it right over the car, and then jerk a misting branch, which is a big branch that has something like a garden sprinkler underneath the car to cool the air, and we leave it. Because the batteries, and the lithium batteries in these vehicles have to use up the energy and burn out. And I was already at a solar panel fire, or should I say solar modules, because most of the times we think that a solar panel is this one black thing, but that's called a module, and a panel is like, if you have a panel of people here, is more than one person. So a solar panel is more than one solar module that catch the heat. And with those, as soon as they come out the packages, it start storing energy. So you've got to make sure you connect it to a battery, because it start absorbing energy. Let's call it photo panels, because it works off of photosynthesis. So, well, similar to that. So when these things start to burn, the energy that these things produce, we had to out it for the whole, we was up there from 10 o'clock in the nighttime straight to the sunrise in the morning, because the things just keep rekindling. So most times we have to light it. Most times we have to cover it, making it difficult to get oxygen. Put the misting branch underneath it, running a lot of water, and just wait to try not to cause fire spread, which is one way for fire safety, so as not to spread the fire to anything else.
Just to add to that, most electric vehicles right now, people don't understand the risk that is involved while driving a vehicle. There's something called terminal runaway, where the batteries start to leak, and then you can literally get an explosion. So if you have an electric vehicle, and at any point you hear any hissing, you hear any sounds that sound abnormal, you need to get out the vehicle and run immediately. There's a service plug that is on the vehicle that is supposed to be pulled, but it's supposed to disconnect the lithium battery from the car battery. But the normal driver does not know about this and is not encouraged to go play with this. But note that you are literally driving something that at any point in time, you can literally blow up, it can have a problem, you can have different issues. So people are not aware of it, but they need to be aware of it. The common problem is the hissing sound that you get, and it shows that the battery is leaking, and then that means it will have terminal runaway. After that is an explosion about to happen. And Lord knows where and how and when.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
I read that you have 2 different types of fire extinguishers there. I see one have CO2.
Okay, so if you could skip through to the slide that has fire classes. You can see fire classes. Yes, we did all of that. Thank you. Good. So, before we learn about the fire extinguishers, we can learn about the fire classes, because then it will let us know when to use the fire extinguishers, because the fire extinguishers are normally used for the class of fire that it is. Okay? So you might not be able to see, but you can see this here good. Oh, you can see this good, right? Okay. So there are, in this slide, there are 5 classes of fires. And for class A, we have ordinary combustibles, which would be wood. Everything in this church is ordinary combustible, so to speak. So they got the wood, they got the chair, they got cloth, they got the foam, they got ordinary combustibles. B is flammable liquids, which would be diesel, gasoline, kerosene oil, the different chemicals that we just use, some products, hair products and stuff like that, creams, once you see flammable. That's why most of the times when they go to fires or go work, it looks scruffy, because they don't put on any cream, they don't put on any hair products, because these things, when the wind change direction, is hit you hard. The hard time was being not a fire, running behind a fire, and the wind direction changed just like that. And when the wind direction changed, all I could hear was the same hissing that Tyrone was saying. Hiss, it was the hair on my hands. The heat caused the hair on my hands to melt and stick like plastic. And I could do it like a black goo. That's how hot heat this be when it coming off from the radiation. But if it was that I had on some flammable scented cream now, or my hair had on some nice thick grease so they could see the waves and make it shine, that would be a whole different ball game. I would have had to, and this is a good point, stop whenever anybody's on fire, the clothing or themselves, stop, drop, and roll. And by doing this, we just smother the fire. And don't repeat it, but repeat rolling. So don't stop, drop, roll, get up, stop, drop, roll. Okay? Yeah, stop, drop, and keep rolling until it's out. Make sure that happens. So type C would be electrical equipment, which should be the fan, which should be PVC panels, which would be the PA system or different stuff like that would be electrical equipment. And if that happens, just try to unplug it first before you out the fire, because it will be getting fuel from the electricity. Combustible metals. Combustible metals are things like aluminum. You know, we got aluminum. They have magnesium metals and they have sodium metals. These are things that we would meet on the fire ground or in car fires, that when you put the water on, it doesn't work. What has happened when you put the water on it is it starts to light up white. Like, you ever say it'll be a white flame? Lithium and all these things will be a white flame, or it looks green. Some of the metals burn green. Most of the fires that we see is the red or blue, but these different metals is burn green or white or very, very, very white, bright light. The last one here, we have combustible cooking oils. So if you switch down, you will see more pictures. You will see class A. To the next slide, right? You have class B. You can switch again. You see flammable liquids. That was mostly which we train people on. Class C, class D, and class K. These are most of the parts we have in Barbados. Okay, so you can switch down. Next slide. We went through that just now. Next slide again. Thank you. So right here we have good. Right here we have the extinguishers, and with the extinguishers here, you will see for this one here we have, this is an ABC. It's very heavy. This is an ABC extinguisher. And with the extinguisher, the ABC extinguisher, the A, B, and the C, if you didn't know what the letters stood for before, you now know that the letters stand for the classes of fires. It would be good for us to, at our own leisure, know about the classes of fires. It should be in the book that I gave, that you guys had, the classes of fires. If it's not there, you can go on the internet and make sure you know about the classes of fires, so that if something is burning, you can have the correct extinguisher. Like, so if we say you use a computer guy, the best extinguisher to have, it will be a CO2. And you would learn that as we go. So as you see the extinguisher, it has a which would be combustibles, B, which would be flammable liquids, and C, which should be cooking oils and stuff like that. So this is the powder extinguisher, ABC extinguisher. It's the best thing to have at home inside of the kitchen. Okay? Now, we can go through all of the rest later, but we're going to go to the slide with how to use an extinguisher, which would be the next. Let's go to the extinguishing media in that slide. Okay. You could go again so the words to come out. May all come out. Right, so some extinguishers out there that have a water extinguisher, a carbon dioxide extinguisher, CO2 foam extinguisher, dry chemical and wet chemical extinguisher, dry powder, and water mist. These are a lot of different extinguishers that they have. Next slide. What is a fire extinguisher? A fire extinguisher is a manually operated device for extinguishing small fires. The key word there is small fires. Okay, guys? Don't think that because you have an extinguisher, you could go and hit anything, anywhere because you got an extinguisher. The extinguisher, this is just compressed air in here that is forced out the powder in the ABC, and it runs out very fast. That's why it is. We're going to teach you all how to use an extinguisher so that you utilize it and use up all the media correctly. The next slide has the parts of the extinguisher. So the top lever, which we are going to see here, the top lever is the discharge lever. Everybody can see the discharge lever. They have the discharge locking pin and seal, which is here. The pin here and the seal is here. They have the discharge hose. Some of them have discharge hoses, others don't. Right? The CO2 would have a discharge hose, whereas the ABC don't have a discharge hose, just powder. The reason why the reason why, thank you. The reason why the discharge hose for the CO2 has a nozzle and the hose is because the CO2 gets really cold when you are dispensing it. So if you just had this, your hand will freeze. That's to show how the CO2 is going through there. It just get real, real cold. Basically out. And for the more else, yeah. Okay, so we have the data plate, which is to the front here, that tells you everything about the extinguisher. So when you decide to go and get an extinguisher, make sure you read, think about the classes of potential fire that you could have in your home based on the fire load, which is the material you have in your home, or whichever room. If you have a computer room that has a lot of panels and stuff like that, so in that room, you could put a CO2 extinguisher in that room. Someplace with signage that you can see. If you're in the kitchen, you will get the ABC for the kitchen because it's deal with the oils, it's deal with the normal combustibles, it's deal with flammable liquids and stuff. If you're in the bathroom, you can get ABC there as well too, just in case. They have the discharge nozzle, the orifice, which is the opening. Another word for opening is orifice. And then they have the body that stores the media, which would be the CO2, the dry chemical, the wet chemical, or what's not. Yes, please. Right, so the next slide, please. So the way to use next one. Let all come up. Right, the way to use the extinguisher, we remember a word called PASS, an acronym called PASS. And the first thing we do is pull the pin, okay? Just pull out this pin, and this seal, the little green seal here, just break off when you pull out the pin. So after you pull the pin, the next thing you do in the PASS, the letter A, is aim at the base of the fire. The reason why you just aim at the base of the fire is because sometimes we get distracted by the flame. So the fire comes, the flame high, and you shooting the flame, and then when you look, all of the extinguishment, all of the media run out, and it can still start back up again. So you just aim at the base or the bottom of the fire. You just squeeze the handle, and then you just sweep from side to side. So the P stands for pull the pin. Good. The A stands for aim at the base of the fire. The S squeeze the handles, and the other S, sweep from side to side. And when you are doing this, make sure that you are backing the exit, and you're doing this from 6 feet away and walking back, okay? And then after, if it is that you get it out, still back out through the exit and leave, because it could start back. Don't walk away and back it. These things could reignite. But make sure you get the aim at the base, and you dose it good and still call it for your service. Okay? In the event that it starts back again. So, inside of, at home, in the kitchen, and we're cooking something in the oven, and the oven burning. Inside the oven, it burning. What we gonna do first? This is a scenario. It's just testing. What we gonna do first? Turn off the gas. That's good. I hear you good. Whichever the source of fuel is, turn it off. Okay. And what will be the next thing to do? He says smother the stove. The next thing that will be done is nothing else. Just wait and see if it burns out. Call it for your service. Because if you open the oven, you allowing oxygen to come inside, and it could backdraft, which is a lot of oxygen rushing. So the fire is trying to survive, and it is just feed and eat the oxygen fast. So that's why sometimes when we go to house fires and the whole house is locked up, we do a 360. If the whole house is locked up and we opening the door to main entrance, we just open the door and back off. So that when the fire flames and comes out with backdraft, it goes that way, but the door protecting us. Yeah? Different techniques to firefighting. However, if it is that it is on the stove and the flame is going up high, and you know that right next to the stove where you can see clearly, you got the fire extinguisher, take it quick, stay right here, by the exit in the passage or in the front house or the living room, and start to aim, squeeze, sweep from side to side and back off. Okay? If you don't have the fire extinguisher, but you got a lid that you can reach, go in, get low, put it, drop it on top, call it for your service. Don't open it at all for less than 5 minutes. Same thing if you got a fire blanket. You can do the same thing. This week I was showing Isabel, I showed Isabel and Isaiah different little things as it relates to fire and stuff. So we had some alcohol in a metal can. So this is a small little metal can. And I lit it. It was burning, and I got paper. So the first thing Isabel going to think is, well, obviously she's not going to repeat this without appearing or anything like that, okay, guys? So what I did with paper that is flammable is I took it after he was trying to shine the shoe with polish, because in the fire service we got to learn how to militarily shine the fire service shoes to make it really, really shine by caking on a lot of shoe polish. And then getting water and rubbing your hand. This is something serious when we was recruiting. Worst days of my life. Anyway, so when I wanted to out it, I got a piece of paper that she was drawing on, and I just put it over like that. And she was like, huh? So when I moved the paper, the fire was out. So what I did was close off the oxygen, and the fire starved and it died. And she was like, nah, Daddy gotta be hard, he gotta be a magician. Not knowing, when you know fire science, you can know how to manipulate things because you're starving the fire, right? So in the kitchen, these are things that you would do. You can switch to the next 2 slides. Right, we already went through the fire blanket already. Now we have making the right decision. Okay, now it says, you are trained. No, go back up. Thank you. Making that right decision to use a portable fire extinguisher. They're just following out the we went through. You are trained in the use of extinguishers, which is just a light course. You know what is burning, which is to identify the class of fire that it would be, right? Fire is not spreading rapidly. So if you're going to use the extinguisher, make sure that the fire ain't moving real fast. Like, you know that it's too big for me. Let me just run and leave. Right? Get everybody out. The whole shout, fire, fire. and let everybody in the house know that there is a fire. Everybody should exit because you practice saying no. The drills that everybody was supposed to talk about with the children and the wife or the husband. Run outside the house, meet at the muster point. Smoke and heat has not filled the area. Do not try to be a hero because even fire officers is use the SCBA, which is the breathing apparatus, self-contained breathing apparatus, so that we don't breathe in the smoke. The old fire officers would like to do something called eating smoke. And they say that if you don't eat smoke, you're not a fire officer. And then most of the retired folk have died of cancer. Saints. So I bought a respirator for myself that doesn't have a SCBA because sometimes in the grass fires, you just don't want to put on the weight on your back when you go to beat a fire. So I still have my respirator that is purify the air and filter out carbon monoxide and what's not. I just got to bring it in, but there's a lot of money, but I still do that to protect myself. You understand? To still protect myself. Next is you have a clear path of escape, which we already went through the same. Make sure you clear the path of escape, the windows, the burglar bars. Make sure you have some that the swing. Make sure the key is there in your reach that you can see. Make sure it's not among a bunch of keys that you get confused. You don't know which key you got to try each key before you get there. Then it's too late because the fire is doubling in size every 30 seconds. And because of the different building material, it could double in size every 15 seconds. The last one is follow your instincts. If you hear, and I ain't saying follow your instincts, I'm saying follow, if you know what, based on my judgment, this don't make sense. Let me run and leave. Run and leave. Even if you got the fire blanket, even if you got the fire extinguisher, if the smoke is smoking too cruel and you can see all over black, you can't see good, peel. Get from out there and shout fire, fire. All right, it's better to have your life than you lose your life trying to save the house. All right. Right, and the last slide, you can switch, right. You are not expected to be not that one, but you are not expected to be a firefighter. Do not take unnecessary risks. So you can only take the risk that is in your favor, that you know you can get out of this alive. Okay, guys? And here ends today's session on fire safety. I hope it was informative.
Yes,
if you have any questions, you could ask now.
All right, Timothy,
Yes,
the other
please.
thing, are most public buildings, places like the hospital, are they checked often to make sure that they're meeting the safety requirements?
Safety requirements, yes. Most times, the station officers and the divisional officers and some fire officers that did the fire inspection courses have to go to a lot of different nurseries, like all the nurseries in Barbados, in order for them to operate.
I mean, in
As it
hospital.
relates to the hospital and stuff, if you want to get the hospital check, what you could do is tell on the hospital, just call anonymously and request for inspection for the place. If you don't feel safe there, call and ask for inspection to be taken part, because most of the times when we go to these places, we just go to tour the buildings, but instinctively fire officers, the first thing is do when they see a fire extinguisher is check the gauge. Oh yes, I'm just saying, if you have a fire extinguisher in your house, right, make sure you're checking the gauge once every week or once every 2 weeks to make sure that the needle is in the green. And the green means it is charged properly, and if it goes past, I have a sign mark overcharge. You don't want that, or undercharge. That means you ain't got no pressure. So when you squeeze the extinguisher, you don't get nothing. You might as well, you don't get nothing, right? Apart from that, make sure that after you use the extinguisher once, even if you don't use it fully, you gotta get refilled. You gotta get refilled. If you squeeze it half, you gotta get refilled. Yes, brother. Yes. Yes.
Yes, when a woman use a stove and talk and phone,
Yes.
is problem.
Right. So we had said earlier to don't do a lot of different things because you get distracted. And if it is that you're in the kitchen cooking and your neighbor comes to shout you, the safest thing to do is off your stove and then go and talk. Because the conversation could be so sweet that you forget. So off it, go and talk and chat, and then come back. And they have some irons, right? They have some irons now that when it is down, 2, it shuts off. It starts to beat, and if you want change the gravity and put it back down, it shut off. Thankfully, I had one of those. Ever turn on? Yes.
Because of the fact that the iron has to heat up, people tend to plug in the iron and then go and put on breakfast. So you got 2 hazards going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So I try to make sure, and I always telling us about us, if you are pressing, do not move until the iron is off. So if you plug in, do not move until you turn off the iron.
Okay.
Don't mind the iron is safe and I got these different mechanisms. The thing, just make sure that you rectify that problem.
All right, thank you. Any last questions? We're closing now.
Service these extinguishers. Never used it. Never had to use it.
What you can do is, if you look at it and you realize the gauge still in the green, then it should be good. If you don't trust that, you could take it to Safety Supply, and they would check it for you. And Safety Supply has the smoke detectors, fire blankets, and the extinguishers. Okay? Right. For your extinguishers. You gotta fill them back. Okay. Right, so at the academy, we have training sessions that different companies go there, different church groups as well, because different churches have fire wardens that in charge, that their job is to get the fire extinguisher and mitigate the situation in case, because they're trained. And some of them go to the fire academy, which then gives them a lecture or a presentation about fire extinguishers. And then they also take them to the burn ground that has half cans cut that is put flammable fluids in, light it, and everybody just get a chance to squeeze it a little bit and back out. Squeeze it a little bit and back out. So there's space to apply the knowledge that you have learned in class, yes. Okay, so what you can do, take down this number. I could also do it for you, but take down this number. Right, okay. So I would try to contact them, and I would then, because it's normally be at a cost as well, I would try to contact them and ask a question first to see if we could get away from that cost. And what I could do is we will have to, obviously everybody can't go, but the church board or whoever could choose the security personnel or whoever that could go there. Right. So another thing that I'm going to try, I can ask a question. If we could go someplace far by someone who has a lot of land and property, I ain't calling their names at all. Right. What we could do is get a half metal can cut, and I could then just go through it with all of you. I can just answer the question and see, because last week we went with States Roads, and a particular someone goes to church at States Roads Church, and they were able to light half cans and had a bonfire and roast marshmallows and stuff like that. You understand? So I will ask the question and see what's what, because yeah. Right. Okay. But we would still have to look to providing the extinguishers. What we could do is get a big one, and then just squeeze it a little bit and let everybody get a chance to do that instead of just buying a lot of different ones. One little squeeze, sweep, and then stop. Let it back, sweep, and then stop. Yeah. Okay. Right, I just want to say myself and Brother Griff. Yes. Right, last question, and then we have to close because everybody wants to.
Correct. When we can do the drill, the whole church
At Sabbath morning?
Yeah.
Okay. When you got everybody? Okay.
It has to be done with church late.
Okay.
So, for example, at our fair, we get to close the fire alarm, and then they put everybody.
Oh, you mean the fire drill? Okay, so good. The actual drill.
So there's not a fire.
Yeah, the drill. The simulation, same fire, and then, okay. Right. So, no, you know what? Better don't do that. Because the last time we had an example of that by Springer School, it was really bad. Yeah, we can plan. We can talk about it, plan, and then let them know before. That was terrible. Yeah. Even it can still be fire, but the panic is do a lot to different people. Okay, so we're closing, and that was the end of my session. And I hope that everyone learned something, and I hope that we could follow up with a part 2 so that we could actually gain the feel and do it practically a day and the drills and everything so that we could be more safe, because fire safety is paramount. Before. Okay, no problem. And Brother Errol.
I have an extinguisher. I have an extinguisher, but I've never ever used it. I had no reason to use it. That way I ask all these questions because I know you're going to send me home now to go and check for what's green. And I have it in the kitchen, but I've never ever used it. All right, Brother Timothy, we, on behalf of the Community Service Department, AOA, and by extension, this entire church, we want to thank you for an informative and an insightful presentation on fire hazard. And we thank you that you took your time to come out here this evening and to share your knowledge and to share your expertise and even to share some of your experiences with us. Because we don't take for granted anything that fire officers do. We want you to know that. Because we know that every time there is a fire and you all come out, that you put in your life on the line. So we thank you and we thank the Barbados Fire Service for what you do. Because what you do, we cannot do. And you are there to keep us safe. And we thank you for the preventative measures that you shared with us today. I want to thank the church. I realize we had some visitors that came and they're gone. Still want to thank them for coming. And we want to thank you for your questions and for your participation in this presentation this evening. Okay? All right, so to close now, we'll just, I'm not sure what else we're doing, but we'll just have a prayer and we close off. So let us pray. Our kind and our Heavenly Father, we thank you for moments like these when we could come together and we can hear a word from persons who are experienced in some fields. We thank you for what was presented today, Lord. And we pray that you'll continue to protect us. And we pray you'll continue to preserve us. And we ask that if we are faced with these things, that you will give us the wisdom and the knowledge to discern to prevent fires and fire hazards. We ask, Lord, as we leave this church, that you will protect us and you will take us home safely. In Jesus' name, amen. Have a good night, everybody.